Hello.
Hello, how's it going, everybody? I'm doing splendid. Doing splendid like every day.
Like every day. That's
Yeah,
nice.
every day is wonderful when you have beautiful hair. Thank you.
I think that's something, and maybe it may be the only thing today that me and Lycan will completely agree upon.
True, very true. So today you have come together because you guys want to discuss the U.S. Army esports presence on Twitch and U.S. Army quote unquote recruiting practices on Twitch and whether they should be on the platform. Is that correct? Wow, I'm happy I got that right the first time. One moment, let me just see if I can get you guys up on the screen here. How have you two been?
I'm great. My chat is just telling me that I've schmutz on my face, and I'm trying to half wipe it, half like make sure that
Schmutz on the
nothing remains.
klutz.
Schmutz on the klutz. I'm doing great though. Beautiful sunny day in Vancouver. Can't complain. My grandma got her first of the 2 injections today, which I'm very proud of, and so that's a wonderful thing.
I'm happy to hear that. Okay, I am 100% ready. So I just want to kick this off by asking you both to introduce yourself, and then we will go over some just basic ground rules for all the stuff I moderate before then starting the conversation. Okay, so I'm going to ask first Lycan to introduce yourself. Wonderful. Now we're going to go over to the serfs.
Hey, I'm Lance of the Surfs. I do political comedy Dumpster Fire here on Twitch, and I'm here mostly out of morbid curiosity how anyone could take a stance in the opposite position on this topic. So that's why I'm here to find that out.
Wonderful. Okay. Let me go over some ground rules. Anything TOS will mean, of course, an immediate cessation of the conversation. So, and of course, I will no longer like moderate your debates in the future. Please don't make my channel go bye bye. I would like to keep my channel. I will rain down a hail of I really didn't appreciate that upon you if you do that. Second rule is try your best to be polite. I don't moderate nicest. I'm not going to make each other be your friends with each other, like shake hands or whatever. But it's my personal uh, uh, recommendation that you do your best to be nice. But if you need to bring out the brass knuckles, that's always allowed. And finally, if you feel like you're not getting a lot of time to talk or there is some issue that you just need to bring up, raise your hand and I'll try to bring over the conversation to you. But that shouldn't be necessary since it's one-on-one. I'm going to be here mostly to just make sure you don't talk over each other too much and step in. Sometimes you will feel a little slighted by my moderation style, possibly because I will interrupt people to give the other person time to talk. If that's the case, or you have any problems with it, you always have opportunity afterwards to tell me what you think was wrong, what you think I could change, etc. Is there any questions, any comments, anything like that?
Oh,
No.
sounds great.
Okay. So since the U.S. Army esports is currently a thing on Twitch, and Lance is the person who wants them off of Twitch, I think it only makes sense since he's acting for this action to be taken for him to go first before we go to Lycan. Try to stay within like 2 to 3 minutes. If you just want to say a short statement, that's fine. Floor is yours.
Oh, sorry. I was told we have 5 minutes. Is that okay?
Oh, we have 5 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. I completely missed that. 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
I have a lot of war crimes to list off here. All right. So I'm going to start my story in 1969. This is not going to be nice, but that's when they newly elected Henry Kissinger appoints. Oh, sorry, newly elected Richard Nixon appoints Henry Kissinger to be his Secretary of National Defense. The two of them concoct a plan to start an illegal bombing campaign of Cambodia, the likes of which result in, and by the way, this is an illegal bombing campaign that did not have congressional approval. This was an illegal bombing campaign that did not have even knowledge by Congress before they began it, that resulted in, within the first year, the deaths of 100,000 non-combatant civilians in Cambodia. These were two countries, by the way, Cambodia and Laos, that did never attacked the United States. They never invaded the United States, and yet the United States wrought this attack of carnage upon them. Their bodies were blown into pieces, and after 5 years, approximately 500,000 dead non-combatants basically lined the streets. The chaos ensuing from this, the refugees and the starvation, led to the rise of the Khmer Rouge, which is the worst genocide in Cambodian history. The United States, in sum total, dropped 7 million tons of bombs on Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia during their campaign. This was, at the time, the largest amount that any country had dropped in terms of warfare bombing in human history. Now, the United States is not only the largest bomber in human history, but it's also the largest manufacturer of bombs in human history. They account for 80% of the global arms trade. They are the largest war profiteers. They are the largest war distributors of arms. The reason I bring this all up is that in order to defend the position that the United States military has no business in any capacity being present on Twitch, the streaming platform, I'm going to establish and defend the following things. Number one, as an organization, both the United States military, all its branches, and by extension, the military industrial complex are responsible for a history of atrocities, crimes against humanity, mass murder of civilians and non-combatants, propping up of brutal dictators, arms trafficking, war profiteering, torture, rampant sexual assault of men and women, infliction of mental illness and addiction, and suicide. Number two, that the United States military has a history of recruitment practices aimed at teenagers and lower income Americans known as the poverty draft. This phenomenon was expanded through the Bush's No Child Left Behind Act, and it grants military personnel full access to American high schools, as well as powerful propaganda networks combining with the film and television and video game industry to market directly to kids. Number three, the many Americans who join the U.S. military do so because it provides them with societal benefits that they're unable to afford otherwise. College education, healthcare, housing, food. Even after risking their lives for their country, veterans are forgotten. Over 1 in 10 homeless Americans is a veteran, and veterans are 2 times more likely than the general population to become homeless. Number four, the United States military has an abhorrent system and a systemic problem of sexual harassment and rape of its own members that by definition would disqualify them from being permitted on the Twitch platform. Number five, if we were to judge the presence of the US military on Twitch by the same standards that we apply to any other streamer or organization, especially one with a large presence outside of the platform, it would be impossible to interpret this debate topic as anything other than fantastical at the sheer audacity of the proposition. Now, there's no way for me to try and summarize the horrors and atrocities committed by the United States military in the time allotted here. So for brevity's sake, I'm going to highlight quickly as I can the things that have occurred in the past century. To even feign that this comes close to scratching the surface would be to do a disservice to the dead. However, for whatever reason you think that what I'm about to list is exaggerated or fabricated, because frankly, it may be the first time you simply heard any of these facts, I brought sources for everything, which includes statistics directly from the military, official government documents, journalists, Times, Post, etc., famously leaked documents such as the Panama Papers. You can cut me off at any point when I run out of 5 minutes here, but war crimes of the U.S. summarized include the colonization of the Philippines, March across Samar massacre, the firebombing campaign in Japan, which included hundreds of thousands of civilian casualties in Tokyo, the dropping of atomic bombs on 2 civilian locations with high population density for maximum civilian casualties, the U.S. occupation of Haiti, the U.S. occupation of Cuba, the U.S. marine invasion of the Dominican Republic, U.S.-backed coup of Honduras, the U.S.-backed death squads of El Salvador, the mass rapes of Okinawa by American soldiers, the Cincinnati massacre, the Mascari massacre, the No Gun Re massacre, overthrowing the government of Iran with a military coup and installing a dictator, 25 years of brutal dictatorship, bombing of the Dominican Republic in 1965 to prevent a democratic election, overthrowing the first and last democratic government of Guatemala, which led to massive atrocities, overthrowing the government of Indonesia for resource extraction, use of chemical weapons, napalm and DDT to bomb strategically destroy food crops in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, the My Lai massacre, civilians at gunpoint dying in Vietnam, the illegal bombing of Cambodia, which again left 100,000 dead in its first year, supporting the Indonesian invasion of East Timor, which led to the largest genocide in their history, invasion of Panama, which resulted in thousands dying, to capture and try Noriega for crimes that he had committed on CIA payroll, invasion of Iraq, which was a direct attack upon their infrastructure, sewage system, and power lines, which, guess what, is biological warfare, bombing of pharmaceutical plants in Sudan, which resulted in thousands of deaths from a lack of access to medication, bombing of 400 civilians in Baghdad in a bomb shelter, bombing of thousands of surrendered soldiers and vehicles, and 3 miles of carnage in what is now known as the Highway of Death in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq again, over 500,000 to 1 million dead civilians in the second invasion of Iraq, and the subsequent power vacuum that created ISIS. I will end by saying torture of Guantanamo Bay prisoners and the torture of Abu Ghraib, which included mental, physical, and sexual torture.
Okay, I'm going to allow now Lycan to have 5 minutes. I see the clock. And I gotta go get something quick for the debate. I promise it's worth it. Can you just promise not to interrupt Lycan while he's doing his thing?
Absolutely promise.
Okay, be right back.
You're muted, or I can't hear you.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Okay. I just wanted to say, since Henry Kissinger was brought up, I always love a good chance to bring up that I own this my favorite shirt. I hate Mondays, and I mastermind the secret bombing of Cambodia, as with Henry Kissinger Garfield. Anyway, just wanted to bring that to
I
everyone's
like that.
attention. It's a great shirt, really good shirt. Like only $20 too. So it is now open for the field. We will have about an hour for discussion, then maybe a few minutes for taking questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Sound good? Wonderful. You may begin.
Where do you want to begin, Lycan? Sure. They were. Would you apply that same standard to any other Twitch streamer? Would you say that it doesn't matter that a Twitch streamer had done? So if any other Twitch streamer did something that you find that's egregious, obviously there's going to be a bar, right? Like you probably don't think someone like Shane Dawson or Anision has any place on a Twitch platform. They're groomers, right? They actively try and have sex with kids. Okay, well they're really famous YouTubers. Sure, they're really famous YouTubers who have tried to get onto Twitch and be kicked off. So would you say that there's a bar that is set at some point where you're like, there's a set of actions that either as an organization, because there's such a thing as like streamer houses, all right? So there could be, or companies can stream on Twitch as well, like, or government entities. So would you say that there's a set bar of standards where you qualify that someone shouldn't be allowed on the platform? But not an organization. So okay, so what if there was a streamer house, all right, and it's got a whole bunch of famous people, XQC's in there, Trainwrecks is in there, whatever. And I'm not mentioning those names because they're going to be associated with what I'm about to bring up next. But what if you found out in that streamer house there was a whole bunch of sexual assault going down in the streamer house, and their presence on Twitch is known as like this entity? Do I think methods? Well, we're gonna have so many times where I'm like, I don't know who that is, and then you're like, I don't know who that is. What did methods do? Okay. So, if the organization itself, all right, has a problem within it in which its statistics seem to denote that is not only committing acts of sexual assault upon its own members, as is the problem with the US military, for example, I would then say, yes, that organization doesn't have a place on Twitch because there seems to be systemic problems going on within the organization itself. Mhm, mhm. If those colleges had been involved in the global arms trade as well as the global suffering of millions of human beings, yes. If you're talking about, because I'm trying to put them to the same standard is what I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to say, would you apply the same standard to the US military that you would apply to any Twitch streamer or organization? And my answer to that is yes, I am trying to. I think that they have a right to enforce a TOS. It's a private company. They can do what they want. They can say that the US military can be on the program, or sorry, on Twitch or not. And we're going to get into recruitment down the road, so we'll talk about that later. But if the amount of like war crimes that the organization had performed, which in my opinion so far are amongst the worst of any developed nation, why would I want that represented on this platform? Like that is there's to you, to a lot of people, it represents death, destruction, and genocide. In terms of like self-policing and self-reporting, the amount of sexual assaults that are occurring currently in the US military by its own members has been increasing dramatically, especially towards men. If you told me today, Lycan, or if I brought this to you, if I was like, there is an entity or an organization in which 80% of its female members have experienced sexual harassment and 25%, 1 in 4, have experienced sexual assault, we would not be having this talk. You would be like, yes, they have no place. They also say that there's an enormous problem of underreporting. The stats that we have, which are already outrageous, are the ones that are coming from people who are brave enough to come forward about these stories. And as sorry, but as sorry, go ahead.
Okay, okay. Give me a moment here. Okay. So that was from Lycan, so we'll have Surfs respond. Surfs, then back to Lycan.
Okay, so when it comes to that, if that was an ongoing problem and one that was demonstrably getting worse in terms of the numbers going up, especially sexual assaults of men, I mean, we're talking, I believe it was close to 17,000 cases were reported, over 17,000 cases were reported in 2017. By 2019, that was over 20,000 cases were reported. Now, I know that has a lot to do with maybe a change within the organization for people to come forward. However, if the numbers are currently going up, then that is something that immediately as an organization, it's not something that we take a step back and be like, well, there's a few bad apples, true, but while they're sorting that out, their monstrous problem of almost 1 in 4 women being sexually assaulted, then I'm sorry, they don't have a place on a platform that is going to be used prominently by, and prominently by 16 to 24-year-olds, by the way, because when I looked this up, it says the average age of a 2019 Twitch streamer is 16 to 24. That's 41% of the majority. Sure. Has nothing to do with me wanting kids to or not go to college campuses. This is the US military. Do I want the US military to exist on the Twitch platform is the question. And if you want me to hold me to the same standard, right, which you're saying, should universities have the ability to broadcast on Twitch if the university organization has this huge problem? My response is, first, A, they don't have the same problem that the US military does. The college campuses don't have anywhere near as much male sexual assault as the US military does. It is an enormous problem within the US military right now. But on top of that, I would say that if you are asking me if a college campus can also be on the program, then I have to add other factors to it, not just the sexual assaults, but the fact that, yes, they are engaged in and actively engaged in crimes against humanity, which, again, I think would disqualify them from being on here. Sure. Yep. The illegal bombing. Agreed. So you're using the Nuremberg defense right now in this, which is that they were just following orders. That doesn't absolve them of any of it. That doesn't absolve any bombers of what they did. That doesn't absolve the 2 people who dropped the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima, right? How many people are active duty personnel from the war in Vietnam? I would assume 0, to be totally fair. Yeah. Would you apply this? Okay, would you apply that same logic to any other organization that had the same amount of blood and casualties on their hands, right? Would you then say that it's okay for them to be on, even though they did things in the past, in the future, things are going to be okay as long as we give them a chance? Like that, you would never apply that same. Uh, that entity has not lost responsibility for its crimes. They don't stop. I would have the same problem if, say, the Communist Army of China wanted to become members of the Twitch, or if the KGB wanted to join Twitch tomorrow. I would be like, well, what about all the fucked up shit that they did? And if your defense to me was like, well, that doesn't matter because those were people who no longer serve in the KGB, but as an organization, they're going to change. Just give them a chance. I would be like, no, holy fuck, they've done so much fucked up shit. I don't want them on here. Absolutely, of course. If one person is involved in war crimes as a result of joining an organization, that organization is by definition a war crime organization. It doesn't matter if 99% of the people hadn't committed war crimes and there's a few bad apples doing a little light genocide in the side.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Talking about policemen, racism.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook. No offense, but it sounds like some fucking.
So you're talking about a few bad apples, right? Well, that's yeah. Awesome. So the saying that no one ever likes to finish is a few bad apples spoiled the bunch, as in the entire bunch is now spoiled. So yes, that is a problem. I would love the military gone. I'm a realist. I'm not like abolish the CIA, poggies. I'm like, hey, by the way, we have a whole bunch of different superpowers in the world, and obviously, I would say that they would start to do things that wouldn't be comparable to what I want. But ultimately, if we're talking you and me about our dream world, yes. Do you want people to be killing each other? No. Do you want people to be bombing each other? No. Do you want at this time? Absolutely. Oh, at this time, should every single country get rid of their military simultaneously? That'd be great. That's never going to happen. That's not the world I live in. I know. I'm saying that's the fantasy, but that's not going to happen. Of course, yes, I'm pragmatic. I understand that there's a need for a U.S. military. Do I think they belong on a platform that is predominantly used by 16 to 24-year-olds? God, no. They have no business being here. That's what we're here to debate. Not whether or not they should exist.
I have two questions. I've personally developed one for each of you, so it'll be fair. The first question is going to be to the serfs. If you acknowledge the military as a necessity, because of the nature of realism on the world stage, that if one global power just goes away, then other global powers will dominate, unipolar dominance, yada yada yada. Then, if you have a problem with the U.S. Army recruiting on Twitch, where should they recruit? The U.S. Army has been missing recruitment numbers for like a very long time now. They have a huge problem with that. They've been investing in a lot of new areas. This is something they're trying to do to solve that problem. And if your issue is young people being looped into Twitch, well, looped into recruitment of the military, how are they ever going to meet the numbers necessary?
For U.S. recruitment?
Yeah.
To meet their quotas, their quote-unquote quotas.
Well, I don't think the serfs cares if they meet their quotas.
Well, I'm actually happier if less people are involved in the U.S. military than if not. But is your question here, because this is actually a good kind of like gotcha, is your question that if you don't allow this to happen at all, Lance, then eventually the U.S. military will cease to exist, which I know you want, but ultimately your pragmatic side is saying then, it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm asking for the pragmatic. If you understand that we don't want just like, if you don't want the United States military to just whoosh, vanish off the planet, then they exist in the current world. We have to engage with them. They have to recruit somewhere.
Absolutely.
Where should they recruit if not there?
I think at the base minimum, the U.S. military should not be recruiting in anywhere in which children or teenagers will interact. They should only be able to recruit to people who are 18 plus. Who whatever year you're allowed to become. Well, actually, fuck that. Americans don't let you drink until you're like 21. Whatever year that you're allowed to be legal, when you're allowed to have a nice cold beer, then fuck, that's when you should be allowed to join the military. And then if you want to lower that to 18, fine, go do that. And then at which point, that's when you're allowed to actually be approached by someone saying, "Hey, would you like to join the U.S. military?" That's when you.
So
without
my question, I have just a quick follow-up question. So if there was like an age gate on the U.S. Army esports teams, like, hey, U18, click it, and then they could enter, like we have with other types of access online for information online about like pornography, other things like that for adults, right? Would that be something you would be allowed?
Recruitment, not whether or not they have a right to.
No. I'm talking about on Twitch. If your problem is the broadcasting to children, If they put an age gate on it, would that be something that you'd be fine with?
They do have an age gate on it, and no, I don't think anything that has committed the amount of atrocities as an organization as the U.S. military has should be allowed to be on this platform. Period. I'm going much further than AOC. AOC was pointing out correctly the fact that the U.S. Army was using duplicitous manners to be able to recruit children. They started a giveaway for $200 for an Xbox Elite Series X2 or something, and that giveaway, when you clicked on it, would send you to the U.S. Army recruitment
So
center.
can I address
That is
this?
fucking insidious.
Yeah.
Like, that's
So
horrendous.
let me address
So-
it. Okay.
That's beyond the pale, and
so
that's what
quickly,
she had a problem
wait,
with. I go much
wait,
further than
wait,
that. I don't think they belong on it at
sir.
all. Yeah.
To be clear, when I'm trying to talk, it's because two people are talking. I'm not hearing information. Let me just be clear about that and say at the beginning. So before I asked Lance his question that I had for him, he obviously should have time to respond to that. So I'll give him some time to respond to that.
Okay.
Oh wait, I mean, sorry.
My honest
Otherwise.
answer to
I
that.
meant,
if we're
wait,
sticking back to
Can you hear
recruitment-
me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry. I said Lance, but it's Lycan and Lance is like almost the same name. I meant Lycan. I'm sorry.
Okay.
There's a lot there. First of all, okay, let's talk about the age as far as what recruiters can do. Recruiters cannot approach you until you're 18 without, if you're 17, they can approach you with a parent or guardian. But recruiters are everywhere. They are in the high school. They are at air shows. You can walk up at any age and talk to a recruiter. A recruiter is allowed to. Would you have a problem with this is rhetorical, so I am going to have a follow-up to this. Would you have a problem with a 14-year-old at an air show walking up to a recruiter and saying, hey, tell me about that Humvee?
Yes.
Because you just do not want them to engage at all with the military.
Yes, absolutely. And I do
Okay.
not think, by the way, the U.S. military should be recruiting. It's a service.
Okay,
It's not a
again.
business.
Okay,
not
cool.
trying to
Let's
get,
inscription.
recruits in the same way. Yeah.
Or conscription. All right, fine. So, okay, but work with me here, okay? The kid is asking a question about an airplane or a car, right? There's nothing harmful there. But the recruiter cannot try to get that kid to join. That recruiter cannot approach or engage. So those kids can submit all their information. When I was a kid, I'd see the Navy commercials or the Air Force commercials or the Army commercials. I had a fucking fetish for pamphlets for whatever reason. I had anything that I could call on the TV screen and I could get something sent to my house, I would do it. And that included all the military stuff. And you know what? They would send me it, and that is it. They couldn't do anything with me because when I typed it in, I typed my age, and they couldn't contact me. And if they contact you and they find out you're not of an age where they can get engaged, they say, hey, sorry, buddy, give me a call back in 6 years, right? They aren't actually engaging in recruitment tactics with these people. You were getting more exposure through Call of Duty and through American media, global media, to anything military than you are here. There's a NASCAR team. There's a football team. They have commercials galore on every channel. So we're removing them
None
from
of that
Twitch.
makes it okay.
Removing them
None
from
of that-
Twitch doesn't impact them in the slightest as far as a significant recruiting effort. And two, to call that insidious is fucking silly because again, they can't do anything to you even if you give them their information. So no, AOC was absolutely fucking wrong about that. That wasn't insidious.
Okay, so that was insidious because they were being duplicitous. They were lying about what they were doing. They weren't actually trying to give away an
I didn't
Xbox.
see
mean,
anything
even
that said
if
they
you-
didn't give
if you
away.
tr- Okay,
You
well,
had
I'll
to go
send
to
you
a
the news
portal
article.
to give the
I'll send you news
information.
article.
No,
This
I've seen
one
the
isn't
news
up for
articles.
Yeah, so
They-
it's not up for debate about whether or not they did this, okay? You can't do that. I can't do that as a streamer, and I'm not trying to get kids to go kill people.
I actually would
overseas,
like the
all right?
article because I never
can't
saw
do
anything
a
that
fake
said
contest for an Xbox or an Elite
I never
controller.
saw proof
They
that it was
stopped
fake.
doing it as well. Okay,
Well,
I'll
they
send you
stopped a
that
lot
news
of stuff.
article.
They also stopped doing the fucking streaming except for the Army esports channel now. Navy put
Yeah,
the kibosh on the
but
thing after all the backlash, after your clever people are spamming war crimes and harassing fucking dudes. Do you think those dudes did war crimes? Like, do you want them to be harassed?
They're part
Like, did-
of an organization that does, and yes, it's wonderful that we're getting them kicked off. They do not belong on this platform in any way, shape, or form. If you want to talk about like recruitment for children, the U.S. military, after the No Child Left Behind Act, has the right now to enter high schools and do recruitment practices. You're right that they can't sign you up for the military without the use of a guardian. That is true.
Why is
but
the
they are allowed to
military a bad
enter
career
fucking
path?
high school.
Why is the military a bad career path? You don't care if you know there are far more dangerous careers in the military.
I don't know. Let's think about this. Why is the military a bad career path? Well, if you are a VA, you have twice the rate of homelessness than the other people. You have between a 60 to 70% increase in the amount of probability that you'll have addictions to alcohol, addictions to drugs, PTSD. Like the amount of homeless veterans there are in the United States alone should be something that shows you like this is horrible. You also, by the way, if you're a woman, have a very high chance of being raped. You have a a high chance of being raped. You have a higher chance in a study in 2011, apparently, by being raped by a fellow serviceman than you do by being shot by an enemy combatant. That is fucked. That is not something that any young woman should look at and be like, this is a good career path for me. Like, the things that they get by the military are the things that you as a society should be providing already. Things like an education that you get in the military. Why not give that anyways? Why not?
Wait. Okay, so we should do this, and the military provides it. That's not going to help your argument here. They're not providing it. So we're saying that the military does offer it. The military does offer it. So I'm asking, in the current world, why is that not a good career path?
Because there's an incentivization. That's what the poverty draft comes down to. People
hold on,
want to get
hold
those
on.
things.
Stop.
46%.
We don't live in the world where people are going to get all those things.
Said they did it for post-secondary education.
Okay.
46%. Like,
so let's be clear. Okay, so when two people talk at the same time, we don't get double the information. We actually get none of the information. It's wild magic, actually. So I want to be able to. Is there anything you wanted to repeat?
I would like Lance to answer the question as if we live in the world where we do, where those things aren't being provided by the government. So with that being the case, why is that where you can choose your job, where you have choice over your job, where you can put yourself in a place that is relatively harm-free, where you can put yourself in a place that is likely to not deploy, which are when you talk about the factors as far as addiction, when you talk about PTS, when you talk about homelessness and whatnot, there are other factors that play into this, and many of which are job choice. So where you have a lot of say in where you go, and then you still get all the same benefits of being in the military. Again, I know you want the government to give it, but they're not. So I'm saying, why is that a bad option?
So it's a bad option, again, because you have a very high rate of when you're inside that organization of being sexually assaulted or sexually, sexually harassed. If you're a woman, you also have a high probability of it happening.
Again, that high rate exists in the college.
Wait. Can
not the same?
I wanted to be able to
It's
finish.
higher in the military.
You'll get to respond.
I couldn't advocate for. The logic of this astounds me. I couldn't advocate for anyone and say, hey, by the way, we can't do anything differently. This is just the way it is. So wake up, okay? And
I'm not saying do anything differently.
This is your only way to do it. You can only go to school if you join an organization, which if you are a woman, you have a 1 in 4 chance of being sexually assaulted. Sorry, that's just the world we live in. There's absolutely no other way to do this. That is absurd. That's not. We don't apply the same logic to anything else.
If you were going to say that, if you say that the military is bad and because this might happen to you. I say, well, it could also happen relatively similar rates, maybe for women, maybe not for men. If you go to college, that is a salient point that sticks to the fact that, okay, cool, let's move on to the next. If you want to talk about injury rates, okay, cool, that depends on the job you choose.
I'm not saying you're not factually correct that people do this because they need to get like an education or stuff. I'm saying that's fucked up and shouldn't be the way, and that's not an excuse. That's not like, you cannot say because you have no other choice to get an education if you are in a certain income bracket that it's okay if you join an organization that may make you kill poor people overseas. That makes it all right? No. That makes it a horrifying atrocity. If anything,
again, you're thinking about future crimes that might happen. There probably will happen at some point, but that person is necessarily going to be involved in.
Right, but it won't happen if you just went to school on its own. You would not kill someone in Afghanistan if you just went to a college. And you wouldn't have to worry about that if the $1 trillion that was being spent on the military maybe put some money towards people just going to college on its own.
But you concede that the military is necessary and has to exist, and bodies have to come from somewhere to serve, right?
I conceded. Well, it wasn't concession. You were just asking me, would you get rid of the military in its entirety? And I said yes. But am I going to do that like a Thanos snap? No, no one can. That's what I want to work towards.
No, but the military exists. We need the military.
Yeah, absolutely. Not as it is today. As it is
but
today,
we
right
need
now, the United States.
Hold on.
Okay, listen to this. Lycan, no, you hold on for 2 seconds. The United States spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined. It does not need that. That is an overwhelming amount of money. That
has nothing to do with recruitment.
No, it has everything to do with the military-industrial complex because it needs to sell weapons overseas to kill
We're not
more
debating
people.
The military-industrial complex. We are
I know,
debating
but you've
whether or
gone
not
so far off the fact about whether the organization belongs on Twitch. So because we're not there anymore, and you've gone down this path, I'm meeting you down this corridor. And on this corridor, this is the truth and the reality of the situation.
This is like buildings over there, man. We're talking about whether or not the military is an adequate career path. Whether it's a career path that should be proper to children.
So is a baker, and you're not going to have to kill anyone.
So is an underwater. So is an underwater welder. So is logging.
Exactly, and so that's not an argument for it. Like, here's this horrible organization. This
no. The point is that more people are dying
and kills people and commits war crimes and atrocities. Why don't we join that? Why don't we join that? Because it's a potentially good career.
Do you think oil riggers should be allowed to go to Texas schools and recruit people?
your question should be, should oil riggers be allowed on Twitch? That's what you're supposed to be focusing on, right?
Well, no, because your reason for not wanting them on Twitch is because you do not want kids to join the military.
I don't want the military on Twitch, period, for a handful
Right,
of
and you don't
reasons.
want them in schools. So I'm doing it.
That's one
This
of the
is
reasons.
it.
Like,
This is
there's
running
there's a lot of other reasons.
parallel.
I mean, the war crimes is another reason. The sexual assault is another reason. Like I said, if we applied the same standards that we do to the U.S. military than we do to other Twitch streamers, we would not have this conversation.
Again, you were
It
treating
would be
people.
like, holy shit, how are we even talking about this? Yeah,
You were treating it well. No. To ban them for that would be to treat them as if it is an entity that exists to do that. It exists to put people into harm's way domestically with assaults among themselves.
No,
it is an
streamer houses don't
organization.
exist to
Wait,
molest
let-
people, but people
let
get
me-
molested in them.
Let's let Lycan finish his point.
All right, sorry.
As if the entity is doing it to like that is a function of it. That these claims that you have against it are a function of the military. Is killing people a function of the military? Yeah, absolutely. That's going to happen. And we can maybe agree that there are moments where that would be necessary, like
You
World
just
War
said
II,
it's the
Germany. Yeah. So with that, again, you are ascribing the actions of the military in the past and the issues of the future to the entity itself. Like, sorry, got tongue-tied there.
Did you think this stopped? They're still doing this. Like, you're still in Afghanistan. You're like, Guantanamo still exists. Like, the
Again,
US
what
military
war
has it
crimes?
today
What's
as
the
of our
last war
conversation.
crime in Afghanistan?
What war crimes have happened?
What's
in
the
Afghanistan?
last war crime in Afghanistan?
There was a slaughter of civilians in a region. Like, I don't have this information directly in front of me, but there was a slaughter of civilians in a region that had blood on its hands from American and Union soldiers. There was, I would have to pull up things. There's absolutely nothing in terms of like Afghanistan is a conflict-free.
Well, you
peaceful
brought up that
zone.
we're still in Afghanistan. That's not a war crime.
You are still in Afghanistan. I never said being in Afghanistan is a war crime. But also, this doesn't erase the war crimes of the past either, is the other thing, right?
It doesn't, and I have not tried to. I have not made excuses for the war crimes. I've owned up to them and said, yes, absolutely, the military has done some fucked up things. That doesn't change
Why
the
would
fact
we
that
allow
it is
that-
a
that-
viable career path and that it is not causing harm to children for that to be something that we say, hey, you can go join the military.
Would you apply the same standard to if the Communist Party of China's military wanted to join Twitch? Would you say that
So
about
I
them?
actually, this was a question I was actually holding in my pocket for Lycan. It's a two-part question. The first one is, what if the Chinese Communist Party was like, you know what, we want the PLA to have a Twitch department, and they were like, and they did all the things with giveaways and like, hey, we'll have like three Xinjiang made pillows if you like sign up to this organization, sign up to the giveaway or something. And the second part of the question is, a lot of this has been like defending like the U.S. military in this way, or defending this, or saying like, okay, that is bad. Why is the reason that they should be on Twitch in comparison to like that? I would like to ask you that, Lycan. Why should they be on Twitch? Is the second part of my question.
I mean, so for the China one, that's easy. No, I wouldn't be up in arms about it. I wouldn't be finding the Chinese Wikipedia page. Do I obviously have? Do you think I'm the person that has positive sentiments about the Chinese military, let alone their government? Absolutely not. Probably the level of criticism that Lance would levy towards America's government military, I'd probably have the same towards China's. But that said, yeah, no, if they started a Twitch channel, I wouldn't fucking be up in arms about it, trying to get them kicked off. As far as
you would actually be okay. Okay, well, fair enough. That's you. Yeah, it's you sticking to your principles. So you would be okay with the Chinese military having a Twitch channel officially?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what
This
they're.
is the Xi Jinping approved statement, by the way. You just got a lot of social credit points.
I don't know what the I actually don't know much about the Chinese military except some past shit. So again, I don't know what the Chinese military offers to.
I would not be okay with the Chinese military being on the Twitch streaming platform. But I will say this comparably: the Chinese military only has between 1 and 3 military bases in other countries right now that we know of. The United States has about 700 to 800. So
How
it's
is
not
that
exactly
relevant?
An apples to apples thing. Well, I'm just saying it's not an apples to apples thing in terms of their global conflicts and what they're engaged in. The United States military, when you say something like, well, I mean, what are they doing that's in Afghanistan that's so bad? I mean, technically, if you're in the middle of an occupation and the occupation is considered by, different parties in that area to be an illegal occupation, not to mention if it's one that creates power vacuums like Iraq has, where beyond the, 500,000 to 1 million dead civilians, there is a chance for organizations like ISIS to form. That is also a massive problem. Even if you say like we're technically just occupying, we're not in the midst of committing war crimes today. Today is a war crime free day, 0 days since our last war crime.
Well, right, but I wanted to. The reason I said that is because I wanted to differentiate between military action that you disagree with and war crimes, because you're not.
But it's the same organization.
This, yeah, but this is not your issue. Is for the most part, if the military had never ever done a war crime, no one ever, would you be adamant about them not being on Twitch? Yeah, I'm sorry. Hold on. Wait. And there was no sexual assault, and no one had PTSD, and no one had drug and alcohol problems, and there was no issue with
So it's not a
with that.
military.
Well,
It's
no,
anything but
the
the
reason.
military.
Well, I mean, so with some reasonable rates, right? You're going to see it higher in infantry because they're going to see combat, right? You're going to see things like that, things that you would be understanding that as a military, it's got to exist, and combat's going to happen, and PTSD will happen to people who seek combat. We will
Then yes,
accept
then
those things.
They have no business being here. Then yes. Yeah. I'm on the platform.
Again, but you agreed
Because
that
what's going to happen to people if they do join this organization? It's not just about recruitment, but you're bringing this up, so let's talk about it, right? So
Yeah.
we were talking about veterans. I think we both agree. We both probably deeply support veterans. That's the one thing that we're both on the same side.
Absolutely.
But the fact that there's 968,000 veterans that lived in poverty last year, 630,000 homeless Americans.
Hold on, wait.
1 in 10 of them.
Veterans. Okay, wait. We're talking about experience in the military.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm bringing up veterans because this is the end result of what your course will take you, right? So nearly 1 million veterans lived in poverty last year. 67,495 homeless veterans are living in America right now. That's over 1 in 10 of the homeless population. 45% of homeless veterans experience mental illness. 76% experience alcohol and drug abuse problems. Many experience both, and 21% of women veterans experience sexual trauma consistently. That is not what I consider a good career path. Like, I wouldn't chance that in my length. Like, if you had a kid, I wouldn't say to my child, hey, by the way, if you want a good education, go down this pathway. But there are these statistics that are a little bit scary because you won't find them in other respects, but it's still a career path at the end of the day.
So if I told you,
I have a first. Before we get off, Lycan, I'd like a response to the second question I proposed.
can you remind me what that question was, please?
The second question was, I first asked you about them being on Twitch, and the second
About China and then something else.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because I just remember didn't get an answer to it. Chat will remind me, but I just wanted to bring up quickly to the surfs. Actually, the question was like chat reminds me what the second question was. So would you put this up basically on any type of employment that has like negative like health or other effects on people? Like, for example, let's say there was like, hey, join our boxing school, or hey, join the firefighters, or hey, join any of these things that have negative health effects.
Yeah, so for this specifically...
Oh, yeah, a reason for the military in Twitch, that was it.
Right, so for this specifically, I'm trying to just keep an applicable standard. If I judged this organization the same way I would judge anyone else on Twitch. So if you told me, again, there was a streamer house in which these things happen, they've committed these atrocities, I would say this has no place on Twitch. And that's the reason I use Anisian and Shane Dawson, is because I think they came to Twitch after the fact that they had committed all these like either sexual assaults or grooming things on YouTube, and then they came to Twitch afterwards with the past. That's another example of me applying that same principle. I don't think they belong on here, right? They sexually molest children or whatever. Then I'm trying to say that they shouldn't be a Twitch streamer.
And those are
I just wanted to get clear. So the answer to the question is yes. Boxing Academy should not be able to advertise on Twitch.
So why Boxing Academy specifically?
Boxing is like a sport which can have terrible health effects for people who get into the industry of boxing. I mean, we've seen the type of brain damage that boxers go through, right?
Sure.
So
but are they
negative
recruiting
health
people
effects.
to be boxers, or are they just people are becoming boxers? Like there's a bit of a difference there, right?
Well, I mean, if you're a boxing academy, like they're trying to get you there to join their thing so they can make boxers out of there. Well, they're coming out to you, hey, this is why you should come to our boxing academy and learn to box and become a boxer, right?
And they have comparable numbers of like sexual assaults.
Well, I'm talking but not just it does not specifically sexual assault. I'm talking about like
I think sports
brain damage. I'm talking about
I'm fine.
Well, the thing is, you're talking about negative effects on people from their employment.
By the organization itself, though, not on like
not from the practice. So PTSD from war would not be something that you would get rid of the organization when it comes to like the U.S. military. But it would be
the actions that you have to do on behalf of the organization. You have to go into Fallujah. You have to kill a civilian if you're ordered to do so, right? That will give you the PTSD. You're being ordered.
Actually, you don't have to. You have a right to refuse an unlawful order. Whether or not, if you don't, I believe you should be held to account, and very often the military does.
Okay, I was just specifically trying to isolate the negative effects on individuals from employment. That's what I was trying to isolate. But your thing is, well, it's not that. That's from the actions of what you have to do in that industry comparative to the specific organization, which is inherently
When it comes
has
to this
problems
boxing,
with it.
like to be honest, with your example, I just need to know more, right? Like I do want to apply the same standard to
Well,
it.
the only thing you need to know is boxing brain damage, right? Like you get like when you box, you have like terrible amounts of brain damage.
It's all right. Let me help a little bit. It's something that is very common, even if you don't end up professional. Just
Oh
boxing
no,
in the
no,
ring
no.
and
I know
sparring.
this. I know this about boxing. I'm just
Okay.
trying to say, in my mind, this organization is not specifically recruiting anyone. You join of your own free will to become a boxer, right? It's not as if they're trying to entice you to become boxers for the organization. And once you are a boxer, you're doing private boxing for competition, for a private company to make money and be famous in your own right, right?
So what if you're an admin person
not.
that joins
What
of
if you're
their own?
what?
Yeah, though I was specifically well, we can get off of this, but my scenario was they're on Twitch to recruit people. They want new boxers, they want new blood for their thing, they want new people to get involved in the sport. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, but it's not for life, right? It's not like you can only do this to get an education, or you might only do this because it's going to feed you, or you might only do this because it's the only way you get like medical
A lot.
services.
Well,
in the
that's
US, right?
that's well certainly like no like as somebody who did boxing, like that was one of the things I considered as a way of employment because I didn't know what else I was going to do once I got out of high school. Like boxing was a
Can you
thing.
can you stop whenever you want? Can you just
I mean you can,
Or-
but the same way you can like quit any other job, but under capitalism you need employment to like survive.
right? But in the military, you can't quit whenever you want, right?
Not until your enlistment's up.
Not until your enlistment's up.
Okay.
Okay, like
Yeah, see,
here's my
I don't
question.
think this is a fair direct comparison. There's like if you gave me some time with this on, I can look through it and then I'd be like, okay, maybe not, or yes, maybe.
So
Okay, Lycan, I have a
Yeah,
question.
but
for
I would like to apply the same standards.
I want to say to you, Lycan. So this has been a lot of like you like, well, let me defend here, or let me move or shift over here, or let me do that. So what is the reason they should be on the platform, right? What is the reason that they should actually have a spot on Twitch? Why?
because the military offers, despite all the bad things that could happen, the military does offer a lot of great career opportunities. First of all, if we're going to talk about the narrative of the poor, it does offer people the opportunity to lift themselves out of poverty. You go to the military, you can choose an excellent job. You can become an aircraft mechanic. You could simply work administration, but then for that 4 years, you can use the military's tuition assistance to use your free time since you work a stateside job to go to college, finish your degree there, get out, get your master's on the GI Bill, and go on to have a wonderful, fruitful career. There's a lot of control an individual has over what career they take. There are a lot of opportunities offered to them after. If you want to go ahead and do 20 years, you get a decent pension. Throughout that time, you get benefits for you and your family. Something that gets brought up often is that X number of military live in poverty within the military. But the reality is, you have your housing paid for, you have enough money for food, you get stipends for family, you have full medical coverage. In fact, probably the best medical coverage that you can get in the United States. So I believe that the military does offer a lot of good for a lot of people in the United States. And it is, for that reason, something that shouldn't be shunned as an opportunity. So just like any
here's
other
the-
organization.
I want to respond to that.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, I grilled you, so now if I don't grill him, then I look biased, and then I'm the bootlicker,
He
and
teed
somehow
me
the
up.
moderator's the bootlicker.
Can I just say one comment and then?
Okay, one comment then,
comment
okay.
And he doesn't have to respond to this, but everything that you just listed to me is the signs of a society not functioning properly. That you would have to turn to an organization like the military, where you have to go overseas and potentially kill people to receive all those things in society. That's stuff that should be provided to you by society. Sorry, and go ahead.
So I wanted to say, do you at all see a problem with how the way U.S. Army Esports and the U.S. military advertises itself? I mean, it doesn't come off like, hi, so what we do is 90% of the time we take you away from your families, you go into these very far off places to kind of advertise it kind of like in video games and in media and as this kind of like fun adventure, and they go to video game events trying to make it like somewhat comparable to what you see in these video games or advertise it in that manner or see it as this fun experience when you're going around the world taking people's lives.
I mean,
Away from your family. I mean, they present it in a way that don't you think is pretty disingenuous? Definitely on a platform that's very, very, very populated by like small children.
So here's something I will be, what would the word be? Very critical about with the military. It's a long time joke where you see those pictures of the sailor holding their sea bag and saying, "Come see the world," right? But the reality is you're stuck on a ship in a fucking sardine can with about 10 other people in a 2x2 room, and you can smell piss everywhere, right? Like, it's not as advertised. Like there are certain issues like that, sure.
That's particularly harmful to children, then, right?
No, because again, it's not like we don't advertise cigarettes to children, because the reason we stopped advertising cigarettes to children is because children started smoking. No, I said the reason we did is because children started smoking, right? But
Because
if a fucking kid sees the military advertisement, or they see the military streaming on Twitch and they get involved with it and they're like, haha, this is cool, whatever. That dude still or chick still has years before they get to the age where they can actually enlist, and they have a lot of other influences to make that decision. And now I would say no one's getting pissy about the 4-H club or the school resource off. Like, what about the police? Like, do you think the police should be removed from all children's media and should be removed from all aspects of school growing up? Because you have the school resource officer there constantly, a bunch of school books and like
Why do we
kindergarten.
have the military
okay.
Hold on. Wait, hold on. What? Stop. I'm saying we represent the one of the biggest factors, and I have a New York Times article about this that will say whether or not someone joins the military is their familiarity with the military. And a similar factor to that is the police force. That's why you see a lot of people, police in the family, whatever. We advertise. I'm using that loosely. We show the police in a positive light from day one. The moment you fucking come out, everything from the Paw Patrol to, Reno 911, right? Like, in some way or another, police are showed in a positive, fun, friendly light, and Americans grow up to look at the police in a positive way, despite all the shit that's happened in the last year. Overwhelmingly, still very positive view of the police. So my question is, do you want that to stop? Should we not have police in media? Should we not have police in kids learning material? Should we not have police?
Yes.
For the sake of argument, let's say I bit the bullet here and it said, well, wouldn't this be part of the reason that has made it so a lot of Americans are blind to the injustices that police have created in the United States? And so when everybody, like black communities who have had to feel the backlash of police, the white communities look around like, well, I remember Paw Patrol was really nice when I was a kid, and that sent me on the line to thinking the police are my best friend, but my best friend would never do that to the black guy.
I would say that the reality is that even after the last year, even in the black community, the police are still overwhelmingly popular.
I'll send that over back to you, sir. Send it back over to you,
No,
sir.
I'm not going to take debate because this is a totally separate debate. I don't want to get derailed into that conversation because.
That was me answering. We're running.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind focusing on the military, and why it has no place on this platform.
I just wanted to say to that was to answer Dylan's point as far as, like, why do I think I don't see it as an issue to advertise it to children, because there are certain things we don't advertise to kids, like smoking, but joining the military I don't see as a problematic entity to encourage them to maybe join.
So would you in fact actually be in favor of them removing the age gate on the U.S.
Well,
Army?
I mean, I don't give a shit about the age gate, because
So if they got rid of it tomorrow, you'd be like, I don't care?
No, because we're fucking, that's like saying we need a government issued license to watch pornography, right? Like, we know age gates don't matter.
So there should be no age gate on pornography?
Stop. Don't debate, bro, me.
Well,
that's not what I'm saying. All they have to do is create an account and lie, right? That's all they have to do.
Yeah, but don't you think adding an extra barrier stops less children from accessing that resource, and it kind of creates an environment where parents know that this might be dangerous for children?
I don't know. Have you guys ever watched porn? But I didn't start after I turned 18.
We all know that putting an extra barrier between a child and something else will, no matter what the barrier is, no matter how ineffective it is, will inevitably stop some.
Okay, I will give you some. Sure, yes,
Okay.
Maybe it stops some, but I don't see it as a negative. That's the other thing, is like, I don't see it as a negative that they are exposed to it. Again, recruiters get more benefit from everything from the Army football team to NASCAR to the commercials that are on TV to fucking Call of Duty and American movies.
Okay, I'll wait. I just wanted to clear. I'm pulling away my grilling, and I just wanted to put that section out there. I wanted to try that out. You got about 15 more minutes before we're going to ask questions, and then we'll wrap it up.
Wow. That's not enough time. So if you want to talk about military recruitment of youth, right? We already acknowledged that, right now the U.S. military is allowed to enter into high schools as part of the No Child Left Behind Act. One of the things that they started doing is they started offering a $6,000 grant, which you would receive only upon completing or starting, boot camp. So that is a direct incentivization that is being given Two, yes, you are correct, to uplift people out of poverty. But that's one of the reasons why it's been called and targeted as the poverty draft. Ever since Vietnam, there's been a disparagement in the amount of people in the United States military that falls along racial lines, unfortunately. Like black people are overrepresented in the military. So are other ethnic minorities. This started in Vietnam, by the way, because one of the reasons you wouldn't have to do the draft in Vietnam is if you were in a school or university. So that's how, for the first time, we saw a cut down the middle of basically like economic lines for the United States. This continues to this
So
day. And
can I just
Yep.
to add that point while you're going there, from the New York Times, the main predictors are not based on class or race. Army data shows service members spread mostly evenly through middle class and downscale groups. Youth unemployment turns out to not be the primary factor, and the racial makeup of the force is more or less in line with that of young Americans as a whole, though African Americans are slightly more likely to serve.
From that same the information they got for that article was from the Pew Research Center, and from the Pew Research Center, same statistics, and the Department of Defense, it says that in 2015, 44% of all Americans aged 18 to 44 were racial or ethnic minorities. In the same year, blacks made up 17% of the DoD active duty military, somewhat higher than the share of the U.S. population, 18 to 44 at 13%. So they are still overrepresented even within that. And
Yeah,
that
5%.
doesn't change the fact that they are being recruited and targeted in these areas. Like,
Oh,
were
wait,
just
hold on.
talking about
Again,
how
they're
there's
not
an
targeted.
insidiousness in certain schools and in cities. Sorry, not in cities, in schools, in the media. Like, you know about the Independence Day example, I'm sure, right? Like, or do I need to talk
Actually,
about it? This is not like a
I might
gotcha.
not. Go ahead.
Okay, so Independence Day 2, the movie, big mainstream blockbuster film. The United States military does what it does with a lot of these major films, is it wanted to partner with them in order to use it for active recruitment. The deal is you'll get a huge amount of military gear, so you can use tanks, jets, all that kind of stuff, no cost to you. The U.S. has done this with, sorry, the military has done this with a lot of different movies. In exchange, they want to have cross-pollinization with the recruitment practices. With Independence Day 2, what they did is they set up a website where you would play a video game before the movie came out. In the game, if you finished a handful of things, decoded it or whatever, you would then be sent to the U.S. military recruitment center, which of course was the purpose of trying to appeal to a younger male demographic and get them to get recruited into U.S. military. Something that's funny is that Independence Day 1 was supposed to do this, but the U.S. military didn't agree with the use of Will Smith's wife being a stripper because they thought that was against the principles, so they ended up not using Independence Day 1. But anyways, that's one of numerous examples. They've done this with Marvel films as well. They do a lot of cross-pollinization. They do it with video game leagues. They've done it with actual U.S. Army recruitment video game competitions, right? Like, they're not secretive about this. This is not something that they're doing behind the scenes. And
Wait, is this supposed to be Insidious, though? Wait, hold on. So, okay.
To me, it is absolutely, because you're trying to recruit teenagers into a program
Okay.
that, again, has very abhorrent things that you may do. You may be experiencing PTSD, all this shitty stuff. Like, you may look at this as a great opportunity for people who get in, get out, and by the time they're out, nothing bad happened. And great, that's cool. But there's also possibilities that something terrible might happen to either you, or you might have to do something terrible to someone else.
Okay, so as far as, well, I don't really see an issue with any of that. It's just continuing to, it's more advertising, right? It's another commercial. It's just like Mountain Dew, or it's like Coke, wanting to be the can that Tony Stark holds before he takes a drink, right? Like, it's product placement. It's advertising. They want to engage. Just like Mountain Dew had all those points for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which I drank way too much of and probably lucked out not getting diabetes. It's
but
like,
Mountain Dew doesn't make you bomb poor people overseas.
Again, you were saying if you join, you will end up doing this.
No, you could. And Mountain Dew doesn't do that. If I drink a Mountain
so,
Dew, I'm not going to bomb anybody.
So
but
in the
I could have a
example
possibility of doing that if I joined the U.S. military.
The thing I brought up earlier, I said, you have a choice, a very, very strong impact on what career path you take in the military. You can choose to be an administrator. And unless we have, you get attached to, First Recon Battalion, and you're the head of the spear going into Iraq, the odds of you stepping foot on ground in Iraq, unlikely. Most administrators are working on a base and never pull a trigger. So I'm saying you have a huge choice.
That doesn't change the fact that it may happen, right?
No,
it doesn't
wait.
happen with
Again,
Mountain Dew.
the
That's
odds are
point.
fucking. The odds of
the odds may be low that if you're in an administrative position, you will not see direct combat. Cool. The odds are still very high that you may experience sexual assault, right? Like, that doesn't change the fact that this could happen. Whereas you're trying to make this comparison that all these other companies do this advertising. Coca-Cola does advertising. McDonald's does advertising. Well, those again, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, they don't have even a 1% chance of you going overseas and murdering someone. So I would make the example then that they could be allowed in this space. Even though this is another rabbit hole because I can talk about how shitty fast food is, but it's not an organization that makes you kill people. Is my point.
I'll be honest. I don't know how to navigate around this because again, you are ascribing these are things that are happening in the military. These are things that in some of the cases the military is trying to actively address. But again, I bring up the example of the schools with that when you bring up assault, because again, 18% schools, 24% U.S. military. With those rates, you would not say, hey, don't go to college campus, right? You would not say, do not enter the United States college system.
I would say, does that school have a business being on the Twitch streaming platform, though? Because that's what you're trying to get me to compare to, right?
Well,
Not
right
whether or
now,
not you
though,
go to
the vein of
school.
our conversation
Is
is
it-
whether or not you ought to join with those problems.
So would I join that school? Okay, so to make it comparable, then that school also has to have had a history of committing some of the worst and most atrocious war crimes in human history, and also there's a small possibility that by joining the school, I could have to murder someone else.
Well,
across the
and I tried to
world
wipe out
who is
the-
poorer than me.
And I try to wipe out the war crime thing because again, most people do not commit
But
war
then
crimes
it's not a
in the
comparable
military.
example. You can't just isolate this one thing. This organization as a whole has a whole bunch of blood on its hands, so that's how we have to judge it by. If we're trying to say that we wouldn't allow it on this Twitch platform, which I'm still on a very decided side of saying no. I don't think they should be here.
At this point, I mean, so I think we can roll to final statements. Because it's just going to go back and forth. He's going to bring up something about the military. I'm going to say, yeah, well, it happens here as well. And he's going to say, yeah, but they also have X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to say, yeah, you know what? We need to fix the VA so that these people get taken care of when they leave the military. A systemic issue. Yeah, we need to not let fucking war crimes happen. Another systemic issue, often perpetrated by the government and the civilian side that isn't even a part of the military. Yeah, sexual assault is bad. The military is trying to handle this. The government is trying to handle this. It's a fucking horrible problem, and it needs to be weeded out. Hopefully one day it will. But even when those are gone, you are still not going to want people to join the United States military because they are an entity that exists for one purpose, and that is protecting the United States, and sometimes that means killing people.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie
You-
gobbledygook.
You can respond, Lance.
What's happening now? Are we doing
Well, no,
like
that's me
Q&A?
saying,
Are
like,
these-
do you
are
see
these
a
closing?
vector
Are
for
these
us to?
closing?
No, that's me asking if you see a vector for us to move beyond that.
Because he's calling for closing. We can do closing. We'll have about 13 minutes to do questions. 13 to 23 minutes to do questions. If we close now.
I'm fine.
Okay, I mean he just did his closing. You can do yours.
Oh, I was like, I'm fine with questions if the audience has one. But yeah, sure, I could do closing. So do you want me to just do a closing statement then?
Yes.
Okay. One thing I think that we didn't get a chance to touch on, so if I'm going to use my closing statement, I'll use it for this, is to talk about the military-industrial complex for a little bit. I'm going to quote Eisenhower for a second. Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense the theft from those who hunger and those who are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone. It is the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its scientists, the hopes of its children. So says war criminal Dwight D. Eisenhower. So when I talk about the weapons manufacturers and then the military-industrial complex, normally that term sounds pretty nebulous, but what I'm talking about is the interaction and interdependency between weapons manufacturers, the government, and the public. And here's where I think the entire system really fucks everybody over, because private corporations produce everything expensively and potentially unnecessarily to make weapons, who then turn them and sell them to the government, who justifies the purchase of those weapons by using and selling them. I think this harms the public financially because taxpayers have to pay for both the weapons and the wars. It hurts them morally because it makes them complicit in any war crimes, the bombs that are used, aka Yemen. And the US spends more on this military than the next 10 countries combined, like I was talking about before. I think the United States is home to 5 of the world's 10 largest defense contractors. The American companies account for 57% of all arms sales in the world's 100 largest defense contractors. That includes Lockheed Martin, that includes Boeing, that includes Raytheon, the same companies that produced, like Lockheed Martin made the bomb that was sold to Saudi Arabia, that was dropped on a bus in Yemen that killed 40 kids, that is made by the military industrial complex and is intertwined with the same organization that again is trying to become a broadcaster on Twitch. That's something that I think is just so far beyond the pale. The United States accounts for 80% of the global arms trade. So no, I do not feel in any way, shape, or form the US military should belong on the Twitch streaming platform, either as a recruitment tool or even just as an entity itself. I find that it has way too much blood on its hands, and having that accessible to children or people who are even 16 to 24 years old is a net loss to society.
Okay. What we're going to do now is questions. So if you're in my
Oh,
chat or
actually, hold on. My closing statement wasn't truly a closing statement, so all I'd
Yeah,
like to
yeah.
do is just make one
Sure.
little comment. I completely agree with most of what Lance just said. I am anti-military industrial complex, but my difference in opinion is where he views the military as a heavy perpetrator in the sense that they are responsible for more than just engaging in R&D, developing a need for things, or identifying a need because they actually engage in combat and have to identify threats and all that. The biggest perpetrator is going to be the federal government and the contractors that, work with them.
Okay. Chat, either if you're in the Surfs chat or you're in my chat, just at me with your question and I'll be able to do it. I'll say hello in the Surfs chat so you know what my username is. And everybody in my chat should know what my username is at this point. So, do your questions. I will not be able to do them all. I'll just try to choose the best ones.
I wanna wait for
Doo-doo,
us to be
doo-doo.
over.
Every question in my chat so far is Dylan, why is your hair so luxurious?
Thanks,
You're
Lucid
not allowed to
Flash. I
ask that.
appreciate that. Okay, I have a few. The first one is also about hair. Um, that one's not okay. If we have okay,
He won't answer. He won't ask meme questions. We talked about this before, so
Yeah, yeah. Okay, this one's kind of this one's a loaded question. Do you still want me to ask it, Lycan?
sure.
Ask Lycan if he's okay with ISIS recruiting kids on Twitch.
No, fucking Christ.
Okay.
So then where do you differentiate? It's A, because you think ISIS is evil and you think the United States military is good then, right? If I'm being good faith and asking why?
That feels very ungood faith because it feels like a trap.
It's not. I'm trying to differentiate why you would say one, because I can easily say both bad, neither belong on there. I can say the same thing with the Chinese military, does not belong on the Twitch
But
platform.
would you
I can
say
that about all of them without thinking about it, right? And
but would you
before
say
we get into this, you still have to answer the question. You still have to answer
Okay,
the question.
okay,
Is it
I
because
would
one of them
yes,
is good
for
and
me-
one of them is bad in your eyes.
for me, yes. But I would say to you, I assume you would say the bad that you look at them is somewhat different, right?
And
Like
is
I,
it
I believe
they've
that
been
you could
responsible for different
identify.
things?
I think you could look at the way the military operates. Well, no, because if you did that, then you'd have to take away some of the responsibility for the military and put it more on individual actors. Because I would say the purpose of ISIS is to do nefarious, evil things to people, where the purpose of the military is ultimately to protect and defend the nation that it stands for.
So hypothetically,
So-
could there be a nation that you would not be okay with recruiting on Twitch if they're acting in a extremely belligerent way? Say like, let's say
If
that
Nazi Germany was recruiting on Twitch, yes, I would have a problem with that.
Okay, so there's no nation currently that you would currently label as not allowed to recruit on Twitch under filing under that jurisdiction.
North Korea.
North Korea, that's the standard. What about the Saudis? What about the Saudis? Yemen? That
I'm actually ignorant enough of the Saudi situation to say I couldn't say.
okay. The next one would be
they're a monarchy, and so it's basically like an evil,
so they're super
oil-rich monarchy that is just
Red
fucking
Pill.
up a bunch of countries in near proximity.
Okay, this one is for the serfs. Does the serfs think is it okay for companies like Coke who have hired paramilitary death squads to advertise on Twitch?
Ooh, no, there's a great question. I think if
I don't know
Coke
if that statement is
consistently-
true. By the way, I just want to say I don't know if that's
It's-
true, but I know that companies have done that in the past, so this just applies.
Yeah, so it hasn't. It's not something that I have, like, anything I've ever read on that. I have trouble finding sources that, and please send me them if you know other ones. But I have trouble finding sources that aren't like a little bit uncorroboratable. But if a company like Coca-Cola has been involved in stuff like that, or here's a better one, Nestle or Nestle, is it Nestle? Fuck, I'm
Nestle.
But anyways, Nestle.
Sorry.
Nestle has, for example, tried privatizing water and successfully done it in numerous countries to the point where the countries themselves had to actually do protests against it. I think that there's enough blood on their hands for me to say yes. I don't think they have any place to be on Twitch. And if Coca-Cola, I don't know enough about Coca-Cola, but if you could demonstrate to me that Coca-Cola as a corporation has done a whole bunch of things akin to that, then yeah, I would probably apply the same kind of judgment. I don't think anyone can compare it to the United States Army. We're talking about a behemoth in terms of both its reach and its damage. But yeah, I would try to apply the same standards to others that I would apply to them.
Okay. Next question, another one for Lance. When Lycan brought up sexual assaults rates in universities, you responded by mentioning war crimes. If the U.S. military wasn't guilty of war crimes but had the same rates of sexual assault, would you be okay with them recruiting on Twitch?
If they didn't have the war crimes and they were just doing sexual assaults,
And they had the sexual assaults they had the same rate of sexual assaults as university.
but the only reason this is a hard one to answer is what else do they do then? Is it just an organization where people get sexually assaulted? Because then, yeah, no, I wouldn't want it on the streaming platform.
Well, it would be a military. Do what militaries are
Because the comparable thing with the high school one, for example, even though the rates are higher in the U.S. military than they are in universities, but the one with the high schools is that you're trying to remove the organization itself from the problems that are happening inside it, right? Whereas to me, these organizations like the high schools or the universities, they're not actively trying to recruit people on the Twitch platform, to my knowledge, are they?
Say that one more time.
Are they actively recruiting on the Twitch platform as well, like these universities and these colleges?
No, but hypothetically, if they did, would that be a problem for you?
Based solely on the rape problem?
And let's assume that it's the same rate across every university.
Right. We're isolating the rape issue.
And every university is trying to do something about it. So everyone's making a concerted, good faith effort to try and combat the issue.
If it's something that is directly endangering the audience itself, then because this organization is large enough and that there's people who may be prone to going on Twitch and then wanting to join that because of the dangers, I don't think it's a one-to-one. But I would entertain this. I would say, okay, then I'm willing to have this discussion about whether or not they shouldn't be allowed. I can't give you a hard answer right now because it's obviously it's on the ball and I'm trying to run it through my head. But I promise I'll think more about this and I'll come back to you on it.
Okay. Next one will be, this one is for Lycan. How can Lycan be opposed to the military-industrial complex while encouraging people to participate in it?
Because the issue of the military-industrial complex comes down to, it's more, I want to say the business side of government, that like the system that makes the military-industrial complex work is that the government, people in the government identify targets. By identifying targets for us to engage with, we then come up with different weapon systems and contracts and whatever to support those efforts. And then in doing so, the government makes a shit ton of money. Contractors make a shit ton of money. Contractors then come up with new ideas to sell to the government. The government gets sold on them. They then buy those things. They implement them into the military. If you want a great example of the military industrial complex, watch the movie. It's a movie with Kelsey Grammer and the guy who played in Princess Bride. I can't remember what it's called. But where they make the Bradley tank. I have to know this. Give me 3 seconds.
No worries. I actually have a concrete answer for you, Dylan, for your previous question, if you want me to answer it, just so I'm on the record. Give me the answer.
Sure.
Okay, so I would have absolutely no problem because I just looked at the stats here. There's not a problem or a statistic of the professors and the teachers committing the rapes in these organizations. That's not happening. So I don't know if that was proposed or someone suggesting that. But anyways, these are happening by other campus members as well, not institutional members. Like it's not people of authority and power dynamics and hierarchies.
Has the responsibility.
Correct. However, there's a huge problem in the military of people and in positions of power of raping their subordinates.
That's where that number comes from? Just all?
No. The stats are overwhelmingly. Those are aggregate stats, but there's also a problem, a hierarchical problem within the military, which has its own set of stats and problems, which relate directly to the fact that there are superiors who are sexually assaulting people below them. Right? If that is a problem that is comparable in universities that I did not know about until now, then yes, I would say that you can make that argument as well.
And what about the universities that have helped develop napalm, for example?
That was developed by a university. I thought that was
I believe it was Harvard. Somebody's helped with. I would have to do, but I think they participate in some manner, or I believe they did in some manner. I have to check that. Somebody that I respect in my chat said it, so I have to check it myself.
So you go to the school for 4 years, though. Like,
make sure.
While you can leave the military, you still go to that school. You still are part of that school. So wouldn't you see that as kind of, for the sake of this argument, comparatively similar? That you go to that 4-year school, you're there for 4 years.
In 1942, Harvard scientists conducted the first test of a napalm bomb in a pond dug behind the business school.
I'll need to learn about this. I didn't do enough research on napalm apparently.
If you've ever
But
gone
anyways,
to the campus, that's fucking hilarious.
I interrupted you, like, and it's your.
By the way, they have a
responsibility.
picture of it. They literally just like blowing up napalm, like in a pond behind us, like in a campus in the background. It's quite a wild picture.
It's just that's funny to imagine that fire explosion on that like nice pretty brick and green campus. No, real quick before. So my thing from my answer before was the Pentagon Wars is the movie, and then you watch it. There's a very famous scene. It's like 10 minutes long where the guy is talking about the Bradley tank that's supposed to be a scout, and then there's like a 20-year period where this dude is stuck as everyone else has these good fairy ideas where they come in and they say, oh, what if we added this? What if we had this? The project keeps changing. It costs billions more than it was supposed to, and then it ends up not actually serving the fucking need. Like, it's a very oversimplified example of how in the military industrial complex, it's not just it's fucking waste. It's waste and unnecessary spending to continually ramp up things, and there are many different factors, and it's not just the military existing that makes it happen. Does it need the military to exist to happen? Yes, absolutely. But it's not the military that makes it go around. There might be key players, people impacting designs, people actually identifying ways of new warfare, identifying new threats and how to combat them. Are there actual needs for spending? Yes. But it's the bloat, it's the excess, it's the being sold on things that we don't need that really makes the military industrial complex go around.
Okay, I have a question for Lycan. We have about 10 minutes left, by the way. I have a genuine question. Does Lycan believe that the U.S. esports team, as a federal entity with a public forum, should be allowed to violate the First Amendment by removing comments with factual information on war crimes past and present, as well as violated Twitch TOS with a fake giveaway of an Xbot Elite controller?
Okay, so first, Lance, I would like you to link me the article because the reason I want you to is because
happened.
When this fucking happened, again, I saw nothing that actually proved that the Xbox that you would never get it. I know that it would link you to a recruitment page, but no one ever fucking put their information in and showed what happened after that page and whether or not you were submitted for the giveaway, right? So if they have proof
So I
that
sent you the article, and it says the U.S. Army's Twitch channel has been reprimanded by the platform after it used fake game controller giveaways to give people to a recruitment form. The controversy comes soon after it was criticized for blocking viewers who asked about war crimes. As reported by The Nation, so The Nation originally reported the Army, Navy, and Air Force of all dedicated esports teams that stream on Twitch. The members consist of active. The publication writes that the channel streams were regularly populated with an automatic chat prompt that offered a chance to win $200 and an Xbot Elite Series 2, but upon clicking on the link, it directed people to an Army recruitment form, and there was no mention of a competition, odds, number of winners, or draw dates.
On that form, yes, I want to know what happened after, and I want confirmation that if you submitted your information to that form, that it didn't get processed on their end for an actual giveaway.
When clicking on the link, it was instead of going to a competition itself.
No, I remember. Yeah, no, I was following this very closely. I remember the form. What I'm saying is, there is no evidence that if you entered that information, that on their back end they weren't tracking it as a submission, because you do that all the time with links. You can show where the link came from and what. So it could just be that they were lazy and didn't put that information.
When you clicked on the link, it should have gone to an entry form.
Yes, that would have been optically better. But what I'm saying is, we have no proof that they weren't actually still holding the competition. That it was just fucking stupid.
So, wait,
and they didn't.
So your implication here is that when you clicked on that link and you signed up for the U.S. military instead,
you
were all automatically linked to being part of the competition?
Hold on. You didn't expect to get to join the competition without giving information, did you? That's the whole point of it.
Okay, so you're still
wait. I'm not saying something stupid, and I'm saying this very clearly.
Okay, so think of this: when you click on a link, and instead of going to a link to a competition where it says, "Hey, you can win a prize," it's a link to sign up for the U.S. Army. That's what they did. Okay, and so either you're implying that by signing up for there, you'd also be entered into a competition, hopefully. But that's basically all there is to it, right?
If I had a giveaway in my chat and I created a website and I said, here, go to lycansgiveaway.com, and you click it, and all it does is go to a blank. Actually, no, it doesn't say Lycan's giveaway. Let's say I have my own website that Lycan is the best debater in the goddamn world.com, and you go to that website and it's just a fucking
false
form.
advertising. I'm sorry.
Shut up. And it's just a form. It says nothing about the thing, right? But it's a form to collect your twit to make you fucking follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, and then give me your email address, and then you hit submit, right? And it just says thanks for your submission. Just because I failed to make a fucking clean explanation that this is going to that beyond me saying, hey, when you use this command in my chat, it gives you the link and it takes you to a place where you put your information and then you get entered. Again, you have to have the evidence to say they were actually lying. Just because it goes to that page.
Here's the evidence. By clicking on the link, you went to an Army recruitment forum. There was nothing about a competition. There was no competition, odds, number of winners, or draw dates.
Again, that's bad optics. But you are assuming that on the back end for the Army, they weren't tracking it, that they weren't tracking where the link came from, that they weren't tracking.
So you're gonna go to the extent to say, hopefully behind the sines they were entering you in a secret competition. Hopefully.
No, wait, stop! It's not secret. Hold on,
military.
wait. If you want to be critical of the way they did it and say, and you don't have proof that they were doing that, that's fine. But you were trying to say that I'm a fucking rube, and I am telling you that, well, guys, I mean, just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it wasn't there. What I'm saying is, they said this is the link, and if you know how links work, you know how tracking can work. That link could be leading to what is just a normal recruitment looking page. But that could also have been a lazy developer that just took the normal recruiting page and was like, hey, I'm gonna just use this link. We'll just send them to the regular thing, but on the back end, we can track it. You are going to have to give them that information.
Even though that would be incredibly morally unethical to do, to get people to sign up for the U.S. military.
You're not signing up for the military. It's the information page.
That's the thing. You're signing up, and that's what they did.
Wait, stop. Hold on.
Happened.
Because if I was going to be as disingenuous as you are right now, I could say they're not. Oh, you think, Lance, they're signing up for the military? You think the fucking government's going to come knock on their door and take them away? No, they're giving their information, and that's the whole point of the giveaway. It's not to just give
an Army recruitment form.
Yes,
Army recruitment
form. It was
with
not.
No mention of a competition. Odds.
It was
winners.
It was the Army recruitment form that if you just saw a commercial and you wanted more information about the fucking Army, it's the same kind of information you would input. They're not actually recruiting you through a goddamn form on the internet. They're collecting your.
And that's
what do you think the point of them? Wait, hold on. Wait.
Okay, well, guess what?
Hold on.
Guess what? Twitch doesn't agree with you.
Hold on.
Said it was against the terms of service.
If they took,
so that's all there is to it.
If they took that page, if that page is what they got to, but it said, enter your information to learn more about the recruiter and to learn more about the military and to enter for the giveaway, would you have an issue?
Well,
not with them joining the military,
they've actually
but
done what they said they were going to do, except
again,
for the fact they're
so
signing you up for the military.
No, they're not signing you up. They're not signing you up for the military.
If all I saw
they're not
was
signing you up for the military,
and I clicked on it, I should not be signing
they're
up
not
for
signing.
About the US
Wait, yes,
military.
that's the whole point of the
That's all there is
giveaway.
to it.
That is absurd. If you do you know how many social media companies, do you know how many fucking game companies, do you know how many, anyone that has touched the fucking internet in the last 5 fucking years has used one of those sites where you have to go to it and you have to follow their Instagram, follow their Facebook, like them on Twitter, make a retweet, and then enter your fucking email, and then you get entered for a goddamn giveaway for a computer and a bunch of other shit. Do you understand that process? It is to promote their shit
absolutely.
and to get them in touch with you.
They never did that.
Wait,
like,
no,
I don't see why this is
again.
such a hill to die
Okay,
on.
wait.
They
I just
lied
want
about it.
We got 3 minutes left, and we didn't address the other half of the question. We'll come back to this, but as a quick breather, I just want to get the answer to this. What about the part where should they be able to ban people in their chat since they're a federally operated company, and that could be a violation of the First Amendment? For people to go in there and yell war crime, here's stuff that happened in Cambodia, here's my lie.
If within the same shit that you
By the way, if you do tier 1 sub on Dylan Burns TV, you do actually get a war crime emote. Just want to throw that out there. Continue. I'm not encouraging them to do anything. We just have it.
If they, if they're not allowed to do it the same way it was used against Trump, yeah, sure. Yeah, stop them from doing that. No problem. Okay. But do I think it's juvenile? Do I think it's fucking clever? No. But
okay.
Yeah, so again, all right. Let's walk through this slowly, okay? We agree that had it said, we understand the purpose of them doing the giveaway is to gather your information so they can send you information about joining the military. We understand that, right? That's the point of them doing. Okay.
Absolutely not. No. If you say you're going to give away a giveaway and then you just sign up for that giveaway, that's separate. That's saying we are doing a giveaway, and on top of which we want to send you information about Army recruitment. Those are two separate things.
I don't know how many giveaways you have ever signed up for in your life. Because I think that if anyone had maybe signed up for 1, maybe 2, they would understand that the point of the giveaway is to collect your information so they can send you more information about whatever they want you to actually engage with. They're not in the business of giving away Xboxes and $200. They're in the business of contacting people about joining the U.S. military. What other reason would you have to put your information in for that giveaway? What part of you would think, hey, that's going to happen. And usually in some small like little thing. So again, this is where I'll say, hey, they kind of fucked up. Usually there'll be a thing, terms and conditions. And then you click it and it's like, you are agreeing that the United States military will be able to send you blah, 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 blah. Any company is going to do that when they do these kind of giveaways. There's going to be a terms and conditions, and it's the terms and conditions are, we are sending you shit with the information you provide. We're collecting your data. Thank you very much. Hope you win the fucking Xbox. That's the point. So what I'm saying is, optically, that's not there. And without someone proving to me that they were being malicious, I'm going to assume what I assume with my familiarity with military, which is some fucking lazy dev just created a link, used the same recruitment front end, and that was it. But they were still collecting where it came from, and they were entering people in those drawings. Until it's proved otherwise, I don't see how you're not seeing that as a possibility.
It should be okay. It's a possibility. I don't want to give them that benefit of the doubt. I think both cases are wrong. Twitch agrees with me. The whole thing is a fucking scam.
I mean,
And,
wait,
fuck
is this
them.
the time? I want you on record for this, because the next time like fucking YouTube or Twitch fucks you over, I want you to say, well, they're usually right.
I never said they're usually right.
But you said Twitch agrees with you. It doesn't matter if Twitch agrees with you. It's you and I talking about this. And Twitch didn't like what investigation?
Answer. We
What
gotta answer
investigate-
quickly because
I don't.
We gotta wrap.
Final-
We gotta
think-
wrap it up.
It's a
We
true
have to-
competition. Doesn't matter if it's through a sign up.
we have to wrap it up. We have to wrap it up. I'm sorry, but I have a prior engagement that I have to go to. I allotted an hour and a half for this. Do you both want to? Oh, and I also want to thank today's sponsor, Raytheon, one of the most progressive companies out there. And would you guys like to say any final things, a shout out, anything like that?
Lance?
I'll do a shout out, sure. If you want more anti-war propaganda, check out twitch.tv/thesurfstv and come by. We do weird things. We also watch a lot of Christian movies lately, and we have a good old time doing so. So if you want to get cozy, watch some good Christian films, come on by the twitch.tv/thesurfstv.
Amen. And like it?
Yeah, first I want to say to Dylan, thank you for moderating this. I appreciate you hopping on. I want to say to Lance, I appreciate the debate. I really enjoyed it. It was challenging because we hit each other like a fucking wall on some issues, and I think you brought up a lot of great points, came really well prepared, and I really appreciated the conversation. As far as to you viewers, if you called me a bootlicker, hope your Minecraft character blows up. And lastly, I don't really do political content, so if you don't like my politics, but you really love good food, you can follow me at LikeandGTV on Twitter and Twitch. I do a lot of cooking shit. That's all.
If you want more moderated debates, you can go to Dylan Burns TV. That's DYLANBURNS TV. Or if you want foreign policy content, which is kind of relevant to the discussion we had here and why I was excited to host this conversation. I would really appreciate it. And next Friday, tomorrow is the Hippy Dippy Showdown, but next Friday is the Hippy Dippy Royal Rumble, where we're going to have some surprise guests. It's going to be a really good show. So I hope you all tune into that. You guys have a blessed day, okay?
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Thank
folks.
you.
Woof.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
I have to be back in 2 seconds. Just let me piss. I'll run right back.
This as a legal matter. When he returns from his trip to Indonesia, to the State Department, he comes back to a bureaucratic row at his office. Kissinger is furious.
Kissinger, I want to raise a little bit of hell about the department's conduct in my absence. Take this cable on East Timor. It will leak, and it will go to Congress too. And then we will have hearings on it. And it will come out that Kissinger overruled his pristine bureaucrats and violated the law.
The Arms Export Control Act and the Foreign Assistance Act passed by Congress that
Oh, I'm
limit
still on. Hi.
the ways in which American weaponry can be used, and they confine these uses to external self-defense.
Yeah. Sorry. One second.
Kissinger. And we
He
can't
eavesdropping on the people call me a bootlicker. Bootliking. Anyway. All right. Anyway. That's all. I'm exhausted. As far as the First Amendment thing, I mean, like with them, fuck, hold on. Hi. With as far as legality goes, or I'm sorry, with them stopping people from speaking, yeah, you know what? If they're not allowed to do that, then put the kibosh on it. No, let people spam their dumb work or I meme. But otherwise, yeah. So it got a little more serious than I thought. I thought we were just going to really focus on the, is the military a viable option, and should they be allowed to expose, people on Twitch to them when they were, being exposed elsewhere. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, no, you can go. I'll stick around for a couple minutes if you guys want to give some thoughts. I definitely felt really rough in the first half, especially with like how hard he came out. But I mean, it showed throughout his debate is how anti-war he is, or I'm sorry, not anti-war. That's stupid. No one should be pro-war. How military he is. And thank you to everyone who told me on the stream, including Rage Pove. If you're still watching, I'm sorry for yelling at you. I just, I thought you meant them, and I was like really flustered at that point in the debate. Some reason my mic wasn't selected in OBS. Yeah, no, Exponent, I think so too. Like, and that's why I was like, assume the rate is the same across the board. And I didn't like the way he said, like, well, yeah, but they're a student. It's the faculty, and the faculty is a smaller population, or what's the rate with the faculty? And it's like, no, it's like the military, right? You have your officers, you have your enlisted. It's like, look at it that way. It's still an organization where you are in the body of people where those things could happen. Cal Concepts, that's actually would have been pretty good. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that acknowledging your past transgressions and meeting them head on is very, very good. It's good both optically and as a way to operate.
Lance, I live an hour from the church. It's tempting to make a tape appear at a store every day. Can we call him Boot Lycan now? So I wasn't reading the chat much. I looked over a couple times. How was chat? How did you enjoy yourselves? Actually, I had a lot of fun. You should check out the doc I saw the other day. Definitely on top 45 minutes on fortune and welfare. Done and done. Go have sex. You deserve it. I can't. All right. It would be by myself because my partner's not here, and it would also just be weird for me to be like, well, I have to have sex now.
Hey, honest opinion. Did I get blown out? I felt blown out in the first half, just because I felt like I was going up against a more optically, like, he's like, well, so here's the thing is like the 1 million veteran homeless, like, what are the statistics about where those veterans are, right? Because like Vietnam, we fucked over a lot of those veterans, right? There are a lot of veterans from the that got kicked out, like forced out after the surge from the first Iraq war. And there are veterans from the last couple wars, but I mean, I feel like that statistic is not, but well, no, actually for him it is. I was going to say it doesn't exemplify exactly what he thinks it does, but no, again, because he's holding the current military now accountable for the atrocities of the Vietnam War. So why wouldn't he hold them accountable for the homeless across the board as far as the military? But again, those are all things that I view as systemic. We can fix how we treat the homeless. We can fix what happens to these people after. Like, if we fix those systemic issues, we don't have the military letting people get into the situation where they're addicted to drugs and alcohol, where they're living on the streets. Like, that doesn't happen if we fix the systemic issues. But again, if we do that, he's never that's actually a really good point, I think.
It's like I could start talking about the Canadian military as well. That would have been a hell of a thing. But anyways, I was like, I don't want things to seem so untangible, because obviously back in the day, there's so much shit I could have brought up, like the wounded knee, the Trail of Tears, stuff like that. But I think once you get really far away from historical events, everyone's going to be like, well, that happened so long, that doesn't really count. That's not the U.S. military today. I was like, okay, well, if I focus.
But again, like, even if we talk about the military today, he still ascribes to them a significant amount of bad. Where, like, again, how many people are committing war crimes? He's like, well, they're still in the military. One bad apple ruins the bunch. It's like, again, like if someone chooses to piss on the dead body of their enemy, is it the fault of that admin person sitting on a fucking base 8,000 miles away? No. The liberal mind prison is real.
Ford, with what little time he had left, still was capable of doing a few. Carter, like Jimmy Carter,
well, his debate didn't really make sense. He targeted things that weren't relevant to the esports team being on Twitch. Yeah, I think that the focus, like, again, I tried to get away from the war crime thing pretty early. I'm like, war crimes don't matter. We're not talking about that. We're talking about I think the war crimes thing don't matter because a handful are going to commit war crimes. The other points do matter, I think, because it's like, okay, cool. Here's the systemic issues and issues of being in the military. And with that, those are worth exploring because it impacts the life of the person who's being exposed. And I address that as such.
Talk about the fact that Cambodia, well, if we were going to talk about the illegal bombing campaign of Cambodia, the name of it was Operation Menu. The name of that was Operation Menu. And it's as fucked up as it sounds. Like
Again, we're talking about maybe a few high-level military officials and a lot of government civilians. I agree, Gwydelin, or Gildelin.
Children, and that had never that's beyond the pale. And first off, we probably didn't have a lot of the same technology that we did then back in the past, but man, did the US run with that. Because once the campaigns of terror bombing and the concept of terror bombing caught on, like even to Germany, the Nazis, they were like Dresden, they leveled to the fucking ground until it was nothing but like dust. And that's not the worst of it. The worst was the Pacific Theater, because when the United States took on to the Pacific Theater, they bombed Tokyo for so long, for a month. Tokyo was known as the Paper City.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I don't know the relevance of this. Bootlikin was a good insult. That was better than bootlicker. At least it was a little clever. The bootlicker one is just so fucking exhausting. All right. I think that's it. I appreciate y'all watching. It's exhausting. I'm going to go fucking bathe. I liked my intro. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do my intro again one more time for you guys. because I was muted. Mine was a little more fun. His was not. The United States military stormed the shores of Twitch in the summer of 2020. Recruiters from various branches of the armed forces established official Twitch channels and began streaming and entrenching themselves on the purple shores with community building and engagement. And without hesitation or an original thought, the great unwashed broke the crust that bound them to their gaming chairs to slam their fists on their Mountain Dew-stained and pew-brittled keyboards and decry the barbaric hordes that dared invade their e-spaces, that presumed to indoctrinate America's youth with their insidious giveaways and entertaining antics, giving them free keyboards one day in exchange for an unbreakable debt, where shortly after their 18th birthday, they would be exchanging those keyboards for a rifle and hop a C-17 to some foreign utopia to plunder oil, extol the virtues of neoliberalism, and slake the bloodlust of the blood god. And when the deed is done and the debt is paid, they would return home to start a Twitch channel of their own, continuing the cycle. But no, this would not come to pass. With the righteous fury, they spammed the United States War Crimes Wikipedia article. They posted vicious and super witty messages. LOL. Kill any babies lately? A leading force in this charge was my opponent, a man who bragged about his bitingly clever war crimes emote being lobbed like grenades that would vanquish those would-be press gangers, who praised an article about the situation that proffered nothing more insightful than the obvious, that the recruiters were there to recruit, and nothing more clever than a few lines about Generation Z having better things to do than join the United States military. You have unsurprising taste in journalism, my Canadian comrade. The military preys on the impoverished, Lance will say. Dodge that quicksand of a falsehood, faithful viewer, as I offer you the dry, moss-free rock of truth. The military sets recruitment quotas based on population density and prior year numbers for each region. The military is trying to indoctrinate the youth, he will exclaim. Take my hand, ye watchers, and remove yourself from this toothless beast of a claim. The military recruitment commands care little for long-term investments, as they are beholden to incredibly stringent monthly quotas. The 18 to 34 demographic that makes up half of Twitch's viewer base is where they set their sights. But be on your guard. That subject will resurface as Lance seeks to claim that the exposure of the youth to the military is still tertiary indoctrination and a vector for corruption. Hark! Lycan! He cries from within the mists of this wretched bog, the light of his lantern shining a false beacon of rationale. What of the predatory nature of recruiters outside of Twitch? Careful, my companions. That light would lead me astray too, if I wasn't prepared to differentiate between systemic problems and inherently broken and unfixable constructs of our society. I'm looking at those war crime points you want to make so badly. This is when I was expecting me to speak first. And then I did a little impromptu about war crimes having nothing to do with this. This is debated about the history of the military. I addressed his assault point. I addressed his homelessness point a little bit. And then I just made the point that at the end of the day, no matter what, even if I convince you that the United States military is a viable option, that you, sir, cannot and will not, in front of your audience, admit that, for you will be called a bootlicker, as I will be many times tonight. And that was it. I wish it wasn't muted, because I want to edit the VOD with other people's VODs. Oh no, that end was a poison pill on purpose. Maybe I don't think it really had an impact on anything. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. But I think he's against I think he's against the Uyghur shit. I think he acknowledges the Uyghur shit. I don't think he's that type of leftist, so he might agree with that.
Check out. Okay, I will watch this. Incisions. What's this candy?
All right. I'm tired. I love you guys. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Sorry I couldn't give you Destiny levels of sickness, but alas, here we are. You all have a great night, and I shall talk to you soon. I love you. And we'll do cooking content next. No more politics.